Hello everyone, what's the good word? Listen, I want to talk a little bit today about a couple of subjects relating to Bob Dylan. It was originally just going to be about this CD set that I picked up. It's a two-disc set here. Bob Dylan, the WITMARK Demos, 1962 to 1964. This would be volume 9 in the so-called bootleg series, which is really great that, Columbia Records and Dylan put this stuff out. I wish they would do a series like this for the Beatles, the bootleg series of officially released rare stuff. And I already knew what this stuff was because I had heard all this and kind of grew up with it in a way. And I'd love to get into this as we go along. Before I do, let me just tell you what's inside here. Here's the disc. Really nice shot of a young Bob. And I got to tell you, when it comes to Dylan, this man is a genius. I played all of this already. There's just no getting around it for me. The man is a great songwriter. Maybe, arguably, the greatest songwriter ever. That's a matter for debate. He's definitely one of them. Lyrically, he's definitely one of the greatest, if not the greatest songwriters of all time, I think. Musically, for me, it might be McCartney, Lennon. But this is not a debate video or a versus video where we're putting two people together. But I just couldn't help thinking about that. And this is a booklet that comes with it. Look at these great shots. This is definitely my favorite era for Dylan. Now, I'm going to take it farther than this. I'm going to say, the early 60s, 1962, 63, 64, 65. Those are my favorite Dylan period, for sure. Picture with Joan Baez. But the story that I'm going to tell here, I find to be quite an interesting one. I thought sharing it with you, you'd appreciate it as well. One more shot there. Yeah, right, Bobby. Zimmy. Anyway, I had a friend, we met in high school, well, in 1979 or 1980. We lost touch. I haven't seen him in years. But during, say, a period of, say, like, about 10 years, from 79 to 89 or something, we were buddies. And he was a real Dylan head. He was with Bob Dylan the way I am with the Beatles. I mean, he wasn't quite this extreme, but Dylan was his man, And back then, just a lot like today, I didn't really listen to much stuff that was outside my comfort zone, even more so then than now. Now I'm at least willing more. But back then, he would sit me down in his room, and we would listen to Bob Dylan. And he'd put on stuff like Desolation Row, which at the time, for me, was like never-ending. It seemed like 20 minutes of complete torture that just went on and on and on. I wanted to pull my hair out at first, but I didn't really get it. And eventually, as time went on, and he played me some stuff in 1979, 1980, I started to get into some of the Dylan stuff that was not my usual territory that I knew. I mean, I knew and liked the song Like a Rolling Stone and, Just Like a Woman, all the, the more commercial, dare I use the word, with Dylan stuff. But he got me into other things. And let's forward ahead in that period to 1985 or 1986. This is what I want to tie in. We were in Greenwich Village, which is perfect talking about Dylan, right? And in New York City. And we would go into old record shops, used record shops. And we'd find a lot of bootlegs in there, familiar, common albums, and also unofficial albums. And one day we were in there and we saw a box set. I could still remember it very clearly, a white box, the black and white picture. And it was called Zimmerman 10 of Swords, Zimmerman being Dylan's real name. And 10 of Swords was this amazing 12-inch record set. We looked at it in the store, and my friend was not exactly that well off with money. Even then, in 1985 or 86, it was $60 to buy this, which is still a little bit substantial today, but especially back in the mid-80s, it was a lot. And he didn't really want to spend that kind of money on this, so we left the shop, and he said, "Joe, talk me out of it. Talk me out of buying that." And we were walking down Manhattan, Village streets. I said, "I'm not going to talk out of it. No, I'm not. I'm going to talk you into it. You got to have this. You cannot pass this up. So he went ahead and finally, after a lot of coaxing, he said, all right, you got me. I'm buying it. And he went back and bought it. It's one of the greatest purchases he ever made. He never regretted it. He thanked me profusely in the years to come. Thank you for making me see the light and buying this thing. Now, just a quick offset to this. He let me borrow the 10 record box back in the 80s, and I made my own audio cassette copies of this. And I'm kind of artistic. I was able to make a nice little box set. I took the 10 records and made them down to several, I don't know, maybe it was a 5 or 6, I don't remember how many, cassette version, little box. And it looked a lot like the vinyl album, because I was able to take the cover of this Ten of Swords and I was able to mimeograph it, and I made a nice packaging, nice package for 1980s, right? Anyway, long story short for that, what happened was one time I let somebody borrow this cassette box set that looked really as good as the actual vinyl that I made, handmade. I never saw it again. It was a friend of a friend, and I never saw it again. He stole it, never returned it. That's another story. But before I get too far off, these WITMARK demos here have some of what was on that Ten of Swords bootleg. Now, of course, like everything else, you know, it's nice when they put stuff out like this in better sound quality and officially released. It's better to have it officially out. It's nice. But nothing can match my feelings and love for that Ten of Swords set. In fact, to this day, I'm making it a personal mission to get that Ten of Swords box set of Zimmerman. I want that. It's a highly sought-after piece. In the, how many years has it been now? In the, say, 8 years now that I've been back into vinyl, I've only come across 2 box sets of that Dylan Zimmerman Ten of Swords. And they wanted crazy prices, $400, $500. I see it's on Discogs. It's in the $300 mark. I may at some point just spring for it and get it. I got to have it. It's every bit as much of an emotional, nostalgic memory of that time for me in the 80s as it is the great stuff. But I devoured that set. I loved everything on it. I was amazed at this young man, Bob Dylan, singing these acoustic songs and, you know, some harmonica and here and there and whatever he was doing at the time and trying to sell himself. I really thought it was just genius stuff. What thought-provoking material was on this? You know, that's protest stuff, deep thinking. I really liked it a lot. That's why I went ahead and bought this CD double set. But it doesn't have everything that was on there. No, I know this does not. Obviously not. It's only 2 CDs. There's a lot more stuff that was on the Ten of Swords. But some of the stuff that I really like here, I mean, there's so much stuff. You know, Man on the Street, Hard Times in New York Town, which is, you know, we know that. Poor Boy Blues, Ballad for a Friend, Ramblin' Gamblin' Willie, a song which I believe, wasn't that going to be on, as one of the songs left off the Freewheelin' album. And also, one of my favorite things, Talkin' Bear Mountain Picnic Massacre Blues. Isn't that funny? That's how I got into Dylan in the end. You know, my friend that I talked about tried so hard to get me into Dylan, and what really sold me on him was Dylan's comical songs. Stuff like Talkin' Bear Mountain Picnic Massacre Blues, stuff like that. Stuff like Bob Dylan's 115th Dream. And one of my real favorite Dylan songs of all time, a song called I Shall Be Free, not to be confused with his song I Shall Be Released. This is I Shall Be Free. It's the last song on the second album, the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. And it's just him being comical and having a great old time. It is hysterical, and I love that. And there's a version on this, but what's really frustrating is it's the version where Dylan stops in the middle and goes, that's about all I can remember of that without the notebook. So he doesn't finish it. But I think there's other versions of it. There's a number 10. There's other stuff. So much great stuff on here. Long Ago, Far Away. I mean, I could just name titles. They won't mean anything to you unless you know them. But one of my all-time favorites, too, here, Let Me Die in My Footsteps, which I think was also a track on the rare version that was ultimately deleted off the Freewheelin' album. It was supposed to be on there, and it wasn't. Masters of War, of course, that's a great song that got released, and this is like a nice version of it here, demo version of it. Bound to Lose, Bound to Win. I could go on forever. And then on the second disc here, you got all kinds of stuff that, some songs that we know are pretty well. Mr. Tambourine Man, The Times They Are A-Changin', When the Ship Comes In, Baby Let Me Follow You Down. Another song I want to mention is Ballad of Hollis Brown. You know, that's from the Times They Are A-Changin' album. And I remember Dylan did a version of that, I think at Live Aid, about this time I'm referring to, in 1985 or so. Love Ballad of Hollis Brown. What a haunting, disturbing song that is, and so powerful. And the version here is really nice. So anyway, that's the gist of this presentation. It wasn't really to review it per se, just say that I really like this very early Dylan. As much as I have a lot of Dylan stuff going on, you know, through the 70s and 80s and 90s and 21st century, he's got some good stuff in recent years. I love Tempest, Time Out of Mind, you know. But, however, for me, it's always going to be the early Dylan period, is the creme de la creme, as they say. And I want that Ten of Swords 10-disc set vinyl, and I'm going to get it. Take care, everybody.